Hi there, and welcome to Module 1 of our course for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We will start this course with information about the systemic and systematic inequities that are empowered in our personal biases, institutions, and societal structures that create a lack of opportunity to certain marginalized populations. The institution of education is not immune to these inequities. The first step to addressing these inequities is to see the sometimes unseen underlying attributes that lead to these inequities. We will ask you in this module to examine your own biases as they are part of the inequity framework, how our own beliefs, experiences, and values often have implicit biases attached to them. You will notice there is a blank in the diagram of the framework. This blank represents more than just race. The isms that can categorize the populations impacted by the inequity framework are represented by the blank. For example, you can fill in the blank with racism, sexism, ageism, and so on. In your lecture materials, we have provided a number of resources. Bias and privilege are defined along with the aspects of the inequity framework. Prudence Carter speaks in a TED Talk about the social inequities present in all walks of life. Also, there are 4 articles for you to read. The first outlines the 3 dimensions around cultural competency and shows how one must start from their own investigation of personal bias and awareness to a more global perspective over cultural differences. The next article outlines multicultural education and outlines goals around developing cultural literacy that leads to equity in education. The third article focuses on the 2 types of privilege. The first is unearned entitlement, the idea that all individuals have access to certain inalienable rights, but when this unearned entitlement is restricted to certain groups, like referenced by the inequity framework, it becomes the second type, unearned advantage. The last article outlines the historical perspective of multicultural education in the United States by outlining 4 major movements since the 1930s that moved us towards social justice. For your assignment this week, we're asking that you complete a table using the information presented in the lecture materials. From this material, we're asking that you use the entry on the right under letter A to kind of serve as a model for what each of these abilities are on the document that we've created, and that you use your material in the course site, and I would say also use your own personal experience with these things as well. So there are 4 different abilities that are represented, and then examples of associated knowledge and skills. And so if you're an equity literate educator, if you look at the ability to recognize even the subtlest biases and inequities, the model for this would be that you're noticing a subtle bias in learning materials and classroom interactions. And so for this, can I write something down on this? Or is this going to mess up the recording? I hope it doesn't mess up the recording. I'm not going to be able to write on this, but you might say, like as an example for letter B here, you might add that an equity literate educator would see that how a classroom is arranged can impact the opportunities of certain students. So if you have a student that has poor eyesight, that person might suffer if they're in the back of the classroom. That's an example, and that relates back to the idea of even the subtlest biases and inequities. So that's what we're asking. It looks kind of daunting, I think, it did to me anyway. It looks kind of daunting as you first look at the document, but really we're asking you to take a look at these abilities that equitable literate educators possess, and give examples, 2 additional examples for each of these abilities on this document. You'll have to copy and paste it into a Word document before you submit it. Module 1 concludes, as all the modules for this class conclude, with a video to personally reflect upon as a summary to the unit. There aren't assignments attached to the summary videos, they're just there for you to reflect. You can count the time watching those videos towards your practicum hours for the class. And if you need anything, if you have questions, please feel free to email me. It's dimmitt@nwmissouri.edu, DIMMITT. Best to probably do it through Canvas, that way it shows up in 2 different places for me. You can also text me. Feel free to text me at 660-254-4424. Take care, enjoy the class, and I look forward to us learning together. Bye-bye.